introduce my panelists again with a little bit more of an elaborate introduction. Kia is an American playwright, activist, television writer, and novelist. She's the author of more than 15 plays produced nationally and internationally, and most recently an acclaimed new novel called The Castle Cross the Magnet Carta. Is that right? She's also written for television, receiving a Writers Guild Outstanding Drama Series Award and an Edgar Award for The Wire. Most of Cawthron's work revolves around socio-political issues. Milind is an actor and a model. He has been amongst the greatest supermodels of India. He's still quite the diva. We were all waiting for him until he emerged from the green room. He has acted in 16 December, Rules, Pyar's Ka super hit formula, Ashoka, Bheja Fry, and Bajirao Mastani. He's an avid sportsman and a marathon runner. He completed the Ironman challenge last year, which is a very trying triathlon. Nitya started her fashion jewelry label, Valia, when she was just 20 years old, and that's not a very long time ago, and she was the first one to do so. She's now among the top designers in the country. She majored in fashion design from Parsons in New York. And Masaba, in a very short career, has found herself at the top of the pile. She is a veritable celebrity. She was hounded outside. She's the daughter of Neena Gupta and Vivian Richards, a cricketer, and she dresses India's most famous actors. I have to confess here that I'm a savage lookist. I'm also a sizist. I'm absolutely judgmental on how people dress and why they wear their clothes the way they do. And if you protest, I'm going to say that it's a professional hazard because I write on fashion. But really, we live in a time that lays great emphasis on being lean. It's not just actors and models, but anyone who isn't lean is considered to be a slob. But this is still 2016. We have crazy statistics telling us of eating disorders, bulimia, anorexia, crash dieting in children as young as 10, the emotional and psychological damage done by this. But when we talk of body image, we speak of it in a number of different disciplines: psychology, psychiatry, medicine, cultural feminist issues. There is no consensus on an ideal body type or a standard of beauty, but there's a discussion on it always, which is why we're here. Masaba, I want to ask you, you come from mixed race parents. Were you a confused child? Were you an insecure child?
I think for me, I did, of course, grow up not understanding my body as much as other girls my age probably, because I did come from, the whole Caribbean body type where you necessarily don't have a very conventional body. It's slightly unconventional, as they say. So I did find that a lot of people didn't understand why I looked the way I looked, or be it my hair, or be it my backside, or whatever it is. They just didn't get it, and in turn I didn't get it, and I had a lot of trouble coming to terms with the fact that I had to dress a certain way, I had to dress differently. I couldn't dress like all the skinny girls back in school. Having said that, I think my body issues are something that are constantly reoccurring. It's not something that ever really goes away. I found that I did emerge from it post-school and post-college, but then I did find myself coming back to it over and over again. I got married recently a year back and put on 10 kgs, and I had a tough time. And I think people immediately, then I lost all that weight, and then of course when I lost it, everyone said, "Oh, you're looking so good." So I don't really understand, and I didn't understand till today why losing weight or being skinnier is considered as beautiful, or considered as hot or better looking, and why can't someone who's slightly on the heavier side be as beautiful or as attractive? So it's something that I constantly keep struggling with it from 2 days back, and I think as women we'll always struggle with it. You don't just wake up in the morning and say, I look good today. I think it's a constant struggle in front of the mirror, for months, years, weeks, and then you finally grow out of it.
How important is it to be a certain size in fashion? Nitya, you can answer that too.
I think the fashion industry sets very harsh standards for people outside and inside. Internationally, 70% of women that are models are white and slim and tall, and only 30% are, different race and different sizes. So I think that they discriminate a lot. There was a really famous song that I used to love, and that said, don't read beauty magazines, they only make you feel ugly. It's because even if you are if I think that you are the most perfect looking person, you will still be asked to get some jobs done, cosmetic stuff done, or, models have told me that whenever they do a shoot, they see photoshopping being done on their bodies. So it's no matter how perfect you are, you're never really perfect for the fashion industry. And I think that's changing slowly. I like to be optimistic. This year, Christian Siriano put plus size. I shouldn't use plus size, the word plus size, but curvy women on the runway. No, curvy's taken well. So curvy women on the runway, and I think that's definitely a step forward. There's lingerie with nude lingerie with all colors of skin that is being produced now, which is also great. H&M had put, men with turbans on their billboards on Times Square. So I think the industry is waking up. I think 2016 has been quite great for being more inclusive in terms of color and shape and size. And Ashley Graham is one of the biggest models now internationally. And she always says, she's curvy, and she always says, thick thighs save lives. So I'm a fan, yeah.
Do you think this is just a trend, this newfound political correctness, this new age politeness of inclusiveness? Do you think a plus size will always be a fashion outlier? Milind, is fashion responsible for body confidence? Fashion and media?
I wouldn't say it's just fashion. I think it's business. And business is more easily done when there is a focused audience. Yeah. So if you can get all the audience to be a particular profile, then it's easier to sell things to them, rather than selling things to 20 different kinds of people. So what the focus is to try to get everyone to fit into a box so that they buy the most from you.
But if I were to give you an example in the USA, where I would say about 70% of the shopper is a size 16 or a plus, and the retail high street stores don't stock their clothes. They have to rely on online purchases.
But that's the thing. So they want it. It doesn't necessarily have to be like that. And that's why you see things are changing now. I mean, the original concept of what today's idea of beauty is, so let's not call it conventional, it's just today's idea of beauty, because the ideas of beauty keep changing. They keep changing from time to time, they change from culture to culture. If you look at ideas of beauty, say in the Pacific, in the South Pacific, they're different. If you look at ideas of beauty in New York, they'll be different. In India and South India, in the villages, they'll be different. So probably it was somebody at the start of the fashion industry, maybe in the 20s in New York, who decided that this is the ideal human form for a woman, and that kind of stuck on. But now, because women are becoming more aware that, no, why should we fit into a box, and, I am beautiful the way I am, and there are lots of people who fight for that philosophy that you're beautiful the way you are, that all these different trends, as you call them, are coming out, the plus sizes and the different looks and the different, curvy models and so on. And it's not just a trend. That is the way it will be going. Because finally, it's not just about political correctness. It's about people believing in who they are.
Sure. Let me ask you a question which is mostly asked of men. Does size matter? Does the
It's
size
asked
of
of women.
a woman matter?
I think just the size of the attitude, not the size of the body. So size, I know what you're saying. So size matters when it comes to health, not when it comes to beauty. To beauty, I've seen all kinds of sizes of women. I think it really comes from inside. It radiates from within, your personality, your confidence, your belief. These are all the things that make you beautiful.
But you were also talking about cultural trends in beauty, and I want to ask Kia about New York's famed American Ballet Theatre. Ballet is an art form where the look of the dancer is very important. Where do African American bodies fit in this?
Now there's, for the first time, a principal dancer who's African American. Her name's Misty Copeland. So with much fanfare that suddenly she's a principal dancer at American Ballet Theater. It's interesting to me that in something that is dance, athletic, artistic, that there's also this body image thing because of the idea of straight lines, and African American women have rounder bodies. And I should say, because sometimes I don't know how I read in other cultures, that I'm African American, because we come in many colors. And so yeah, it's interesting to me that I was reading something in the New Yorker a few months ago, and they talked about how that ballet was one of sort of the last segregated arts in that way, and it was actually an article about Misty Copeland. So yeah, it's just interesting to me that something that should be about the art has for so long also been very based on a certain look of a certain race, and now that's changing, which is interesting.
Where does African American hair fit into the American beauty standard?
Yes, well, that's another interesting thing, because I was reading a little bit about a very famous model who now has her own agency that I wrote a little bit about, that I was on one of those questions. But yes, it's really interesting to me that even in this day and age, when lots of women have natural hair, whether it's an afro or whether it's dreads, that in industry and also in television and film, that it's very straight. It's very much European, that women that still feel this need, or they feel like in order to get jobs in Hollywood that they need to make their hair straighter. I mean, it's interesting. I live in Harlem, and it's interesting that people that are educated, women that are educated, black women, or especially are artistic, tend to have natural hair, and women that are less educated and also more working class, and also the conservative educated class have straighter hair. It's just, that's an interesting thing to me in 2016, that still goes on. I'll just say one more thing. There's a political organization called The Color of Change. It's very much online, and it has a lot to do with activism in terms of race issues. And I remember there was this petition that went around, and it was something about, like, I actually can't remember the details, but something that had happened in the media, and it was showing all these beautiful women, but all of them were white. And so they had this petition to say that, and I think they were also young women. They were like teenagers. So then there was this petition. They showed all these beautiful black teenagers, which was wonderful, except they all had straight hair. And so I wrote and said that this is wonderful. I'm glad you're doing this. But I would have loved to have seen some of these young girls embracing their natural hair And I just got a response that said something like, "We can't please everybody," or something.
Yeah, but other than color issues also, and Masaba and I were just talking about this earlier, about Marc Jacobs' show. Marc Jacobs is, of course, this very famous American designer. He stirred up a little bit of a controversy when he had his models with cornrows or dreadlocks. Was it this year, in the fall, winter this year? Is this cultural appropriation or is it appreciation?
I think we can both speak, have our thoughts about, because I just talked, do you want to talk?
Well, yeah, I think, I don't know, there was obviously an uproar about why he put white models in dreadlocks.
Yeah.
And I put my models in dreadlocks earlier this year at Fashion Week in Delhi, and I got the same question saying that, why would you do it if Marc Jacobs did it and had so much of a, so much turmoil and all of that. But see, the thing is, I don't know what it is. I think when you have something that is done in the name of fashion, you don't have to always question it. I don't know if it fit into Marc Jacobs' idea of things. It was probably a larger idea that probably people took in the wrong way, But like I said, it would be nice to have black models on the runway in dreadlocks, but it doesn't make any difference. I think our problem is that we should say that there should be black models and models from different races on the runway, but you can't always diss models who are white and who've been walking the runway for so many years. I think it doesn't make any difference when it's fashion. In the name of fashion, I think you don't have to always question and doubt the intention of the artist.
No, but it is, you do speak of it culturally as well. You do try to understand and deconstruct the layers of whatever's on a runway, whether it's the look or the size or the clothes.
Can I just say one thing about that?
Yeah.
I think one of the questions I have about that is sometimes when it is something natural to black hair, it's not paid attention to or not thought of as beautiful until suddenly a white model wears it, and then suddenly it becomes something new and exotic and interesting. So I guess that's mainly the question I have, is when, and it's also an interesting thing when the dominant race and culture can sort of pick and choose what's interesting in terms from the oppressed race or culture and take on that, but without all the oppression that implies. So I guess I don't necessarily think of rules one way or the other of the way people should look, but I hope it comes with a certain sensitivity.
Milind, has the beauty ideal changed? You've been modeling since you were in your 20s, and now you are 52. How has it changed in 30 years? What has changed?
Well, it's not changed that much, as you said, the ideal, because when I started modeling, which was in 1987, it was pretty much the same. It hasn't changed that much. But what has happened is there are new acceptances. So around the ideal, and I look at it as a commercial ideal. So when we are talking about why Marc Jacobs did cornrows on white models, I think it's just that he saw it as a design element. That's all. I don't think he thought about it that much to see if are people going to talk about this, what are they going to say. He just said, oh, this is a nice thing, it'll go with the clothes that I made, and I'm doing something that's beautiful. I mean, he's an artist. Artists don't think that much about business, if they're true artists, and that's how we look at them. And I think it was just that. I think it was just that. But when it comes to, again, the commercialization of the body, this is the commercialization of the body, that the biggest audience, even when it comes to age profiles, today everyone wants to sell to 17 to 20-year-olds. That's the audience. Nobody wants to sell to 40-year-old women for some reason. Or even 40-year-old men. In India, when they say India is a young country, okay, you don't go out as much as I do. That everybody's focused today on the youth. What is young? What is the young attitude? What is all that? So, of course, they're selling to older people, but they're talking primarily to the youth. And that is because that they see as the biggest growing market in the country. So even when it comes to fashion, it's the same. This ideal which they have built up, the fashion industry has built up maybe from the time of Coco Chanel, from the time of Twiggy, the model. That ideal is still there, but new forms have become acceptable. And other designers now are working for those forms or with those forms because they're more sympathetic. All the earlier designers, they're artistic people. They say, no, this is what we like. We're going to work with this. I mean, I've worked with designers for 30 years now. They want something, it has to look like this. If it looks even an inch out of place, they throw it in the dustbin. That's it. They don't think about whether it's affecting society or it's against social mores or anything like that. So this is the conventional thing. It's not about the body, it's about what sells and what I want to sell as an artist, what I want to express as an artist. Like, I'll give you an example. When I did an ad in the 90s, which you may be aware of, it was for Tough Shoes. It was a shoe ad, and I was naked with my girlfriend, Madhu, which we all know about. And it's not that I thought about it in terms of what will be the response to this. I just said, oh, this is a great picture. I'm a model. Prabodha Das Gupta is shooting it. It's going to be fabulous. Let me do it. I didn't think that, oh, there's going to be a court case for 14 years. It's going to be spoken about all over the world. None of that. Neither did the agency or the shoe company. None of that. They just thought, oh, this is a great concept. We love it. Let's go with it.
Well, that was an unfortunate incident. But today the political ramifications of a brand, of its responsibility to be proper in society is very different from what it does in business. Masaba, you will agree that models on runways, maybe not in India, but definitely in Europe, the girls look like boys. The girls look like boys. They're very, very skinny. I mean, and the boys look like girls. There's just this one type of body that we see on runways.
I can't hear you at all, sorry. It's just
Okay. So I was saying in the West, in Europe, the runways are filled with very thin girls who look like boys and boys who look like girls. There's a great gender blending of a body type. A very slim look is being promoted on the runways. In media campaigns, it may be more of a branding exercise to have more inclusiveness or to have curvy women or to have women of different colors. But if you put a very thin person on an ad campaign, then the company gets pulled up for it, or for the child look or the boy child look. Do you see that a little bit of a dichotomy in fashion?
I do actually, but the thing is, when I've asked this question many times at Fashion Week, where I said, why do we have to have such skinny models? Why can't we get not curvy necessarily, but probably, but, average looking, average bodied girls. And the question is that, the answer is that, we treat the models like hangers. So the idea is that when you're watching a runway show, and I think one thing that we must all realize is that runway shows are more presentations. They're meant to be visually appealing. They're meant to be fun. And the answer I get is that, skinny models make for very, very attractive hangers, and clothes look good on them. So this is something
Even
that
bad
I've been
clothes
told.
look good on them.
Yeah, even bad clothes look good on them. So they can change an outfit, is what I'm told. However, I am somebody so we've started this campaign for my label, especially, where we don't use models anymore, especially skinny models. We use women, Milan. And we're using, I don't want to say real women because I don't really know what that means. All of us are real, skinny women are real, big women are real. But we're using regular people who are not models and shooting them in their natural habitat. And sales have quadrupled, And for me, personally, when I have to go out and sell an outfit, runway images don't work for me, because I see an outfit on that model and they get overwhelmed and they're intimidated and they don't feel like they can wear it. And when you put normal people in your clothes, people immediately warm up and say, oh my God, I have a shoulder bulge. I have an extra bit of fat on my stomach. I can wear that, you know.
Do you think brands need to embrace imperfections?
Absolutely. Firstly, fairness creams need to just die. They can't do this anymore. I mean, it's not about...
What about men's fairness creams?
Even worse. And whoever uses that should, I don't know. I'm saying something controversial now? Okay. But I just think that, you know, firstly, you can't be fair if you're not born fair. I don't know how to drill this concept into people, especially Indians. They don't get it. And I think, other than that, you can't change. I mean, if I want to look like Beyonce, I can't look like Beyonce because my body type, my frame is a certain way, you know. And we put these people on magazine covers and you say, okay, this is how you can get her body. But the truth is you can't, you know, which I think is something that needs to be drilled into people's heads, that you can't look like that person on a magazine cover or in a shoot no matter what you do, you know. You can't change the way your bone structure is. So I think campaigns need to be more real. They need to focus on and embrace imperfections and flaws and talk about the reality of the situation, because I feel like maybe not now, but 10, 15 years down the line, you can't fool the audience anymore. You know, they're going to wake up and say, listen, you promised me that, but that didn't happen. You'll probably break a few bones to change the way you look, you know. But that's something that really, really bugs me, especially with fashion. You can't look like Gigi Hadid if you don't have that kind of metabolism to begin with, or that kind of structure to begin with, or that height, you know. So campaigns which are affecting the youth especially need to be more responsible. They need to stand up and say that we messed up, or this doesn't really happen in reality and this is what actually happens, you know. Like acne, for example. I've battled with acne for 14 years. It never goes away, it keeps coming back. And no amount of face wash is going to change the fact it's an inside hormonal problem, you know, and you need to go to the bottom root of it and go to a doctor, you know. No fairness cream or neem face wash or whatever the hell that is going to make any difference to anyone's life, you know. So I think that's something that brands need to say, look, we messed up, and do a normal ad, you know, put normal people on ads and do real things. Don't Photoshop to begin with.
We'll all be broke then. All companies will be broke then. Nitya?
Well, so be it, but you know, the problem is how much youngsters are they're being tormented. I mean, you have young girls throwing up after eating forcefully because they want to look a certain way. They slap on 100 things on their face every night because they want to look a certain way. We are raising a generation to think that they are not perfect, which is a big problem.
Do you think
But
it's
the whole thing is that, sorry to interrupt, is that most brands feed, I'm not actually. Most brands feed on insecurity. I mean, how do they get you to buy something that you don't really need? Right. They feed on insecurity. So all their research shows that this is something that they want, the majority of their consumer base. This is what they want, and that's what they're giving them. They don't have that responsibility of saying, oh, let's educate them to tell them that they should not actually need our product.
On a more positive note, CoverGirl just...
But this is positive.
CoverGirl has just signed on a 17-year-old gay blogger to be the face of CoverGirl and to sell makeup. I mean, when did you ever hear that? Like a gay teenager selling makeup. I think that's like, you know,
I don't even think anybody needs makeup.
I agree.
I like girls without
women,
makeup. I mean, if you ask me. If you ask me.
But Nitya, do you see
But girls like makeup.
Do you see a hypocrisy?
Girls, that's what they
And they
feed
don't
on.
wear makeup for you, Milan, always. They wear makeup for themselves sometimes.
Oh, I hope so. I hope so. Now they definitely won't, since I said it.
Yeah, the women who are hounding you, for sure. But going back to what you said earlier about, you know, the industry changing, I wanted to say this earlier, sorry, but at Lakme Fashion Week, for a couple of seasons, we had one African-American woman walking the ramp for the finale as well. I remember that Anamika show, and And it was the only African American model in a sea of like Indian models and a few white models. And it was really sweet, like, you know, that they were trying to be, you know, equal when it comes to race and color. But a lot of people like just looked at each other, and I heard people saying, oh, you know, she stuck out like a sore thumb. So I think it's also the issue with the audiences, or I think it's also the people who are consuming this and society at large who, you know, are very unforgiving.
Which is what I was asking you. Isn't it a chicken and egg situation? Is the audience, like the press lapped her up. I'm sorry, I can't remember her name now, but the press just fell in love with her. She was gorgeous looking. She was a Nigerian girl. She opened almost every show that season or closed the show a year ago. And we all loved her, but if you're saying that the audience wouldn't pick it up, that means is it something else that we do for branding and for media, and is the reality of the consumer very different?
I think, you know, we are, as a society, are trained to be followers. When you go to school, when you go to college, we as a, you know, the last, I think, century, after the Industrial Revolution, we've been trained at school and at college to follow and not to be innovators or to think. We're not taught to be thinkers, really. And now, you know, that's slowly changing because there are more educational toys that teach young children to think independently rather than just accept what is told to them. So I think that it's not even, I feel bad for them because they are raised like that. They've always been told that by their parents or by their teachers in school. Like, for example, everywhere, you know, you see this term called the bikini body. So it's called the bikini body, and like, why is it called a bikini body? To go to the beach and to wear a bikini, you don't have to have a certain type of body. Anyone can go enjoy the water and the sand and the sun, you know. So why is it termed that? So there's a lot of terminology that exists and a lot of ideas that exist and that have been taught and passed on from generation to generation. So I think it's time to change things from the roots and like teach people how to think for themselves rather than to just follow.
Nasaba, what is a bikini body? I would imagine women only in between the sizes of 0 and 4 who can wear a bikini. Can anyone
I
wear a bikini?
I'm a UK 12.
You feel any size can carry off a bikini?
Yeah, I think so. It's just that you have to pick what kind of bikini you wear. That's all. It's as simple as that. Go on to ASOS, find a bikini that works, that fits you perfectly, and you're okay. That's all that it takes, you know.
Nitya, you made a debut in a swimsuit. Was it last month in Cosmopolitan? She wore a swimsuit and boots. And was it a bodysuit, swimsuit?
Bodysuit, swimsuit, same thing. Looks the same.
Well, you look great. How did you feel?
So I was tricked into doing it. I'm just kidding. Yeah, so I didn't know I was going to be wearing a swimsuit. They just said, oh, we're doing a photo shoot with curvy women. And I show up and they open a suitcase full of swimsuits. And I'm like, no, thanks, this is not happening. But the photographer is someone I really admire. And he really encouraged me and said, you know, you're going to be changing the thought process and of women who are going to be reading the magazine, and you're going to be an inspiration. So I was like, well, okay, I've been quite confident all my life. And in the last like 3, I was much lighter than what I am now. I was like about 20 kilos lighter. And this is the biggest I've ever been. So it was not easy like for me to get into a swimsuit and pose. And I was extremely shy. But he told me, forget about your exterior. In your mind, forget about your exterior and think about how you feel inside. And that's exactly what I did, and it wasn't too bad. I mean, I got a great feedback from everybody. I was actually kind of shocked. I was really worried about my mom, you know, flipping out at me. And when I told her, I just a photo shoot in a swimsuit, and she was like, "Yeah, so what? What's the big deal?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." Yeah, and I had people calling me saying, you know, I've never worn sleeveless in front of my friends or in front of people. I never go to pool parties because I don't want to wear a swimsuit. And it's so amazing that you did this, and you're such an inspiration. And I had so many people texting and calling me. So it felt great, actually.
That's great. Milind, you are an athlete. Where does fitness come into play, where body issues are concerned? Is being fit the same as being thin?
So fitness is basically about having the discipline to make the right choices. It's not about running, it's not about playing tennis, it's not about how much weight you can lift. It's about understanding who you are, it's about understanding what is good for you, and choosing those things. So whether you choose to be thin or fat, or eat this kind of food or that kind of food, or wear these clothes or those clothes, that is the choice that you're comfortable with, and that is the choice you make. That is the definition of fitness. It is not about...
Are you telling me that this whole country is running because it just wants to not lose weight?
No, people have their own reasons for running. This is my reason for running. A lot of people run to lose weight. Yeah. A lot of people run because they've had an idea that, oh, one day in our lives we want to run a marathon. They've been inspired by other people who've done it. There could be a variety of reasons. The doctor could have told them, listen, you're going to get diabetes if you don't start exercising, or you want to manage your heart problems, so you start running. There are many reasons. Yeah. But the biggest reason is to feel great about yourself. And that is when a person is really fit and really healthy, is when they begin to believe in themselves and accept and love themselves. That is the meaning of fitness.
And what is the demographic of the runner today?
Well, it's,
how old
I'll
is
tell
your
you what,
average
I'll
runner?
tell you what, people who begin to run are people who have realized that they need to take the next step. So we're talking about, people who are like sheep, people who are following, people who are taught to follow, people who have not found themselves, who don't understand, who don't accept who they are. So they see running as a kind of way to explore their personality with people who also believe the same. So it's a community. Nobody here today is running to win the Olympics. If you see the running movement, whether it's in America, whether it's in India, it's about people who run together because they want to be healthy. Not only physically, but also mentally and emotionally. And this whole community helps them to achieve that.
What advice would you give to curvy women out there, Nitya, Masaba?
I would just say that you have to teach your heart how to love yourself, and your mind how to respect your body and yourself. How you look doesn't talk about your character as a person, or your ability to do something. You can achieve anything you want, and it's really not about the shape you are. It's about how you feel about yourself. I think the important thing is to just be an achiever in life, and to achieve whatever you dream to achieve. And if you dream to have a certain body type, sure, go ahead. But I don't think it should be the end, the beginning and the end of everything. Yeah.
Well, I think for curvy women, the way you look and what your weight is should be a choice that you make for your health, and not for society or for any cosmetic reason whatsoever. I think that if you're healthy and you're fit and you're bigger, it's all right. And you don't have to conform to any kind of rules or any kind of a body type. Having said that, I think if you feel like you want to be skinny, you should achieve that, if that makes you feel good about yourself. I think you don't have to just say, I'm curvy and I'm going to deal with it. If you feel like you want to be skinny, work for it and do that. And I don't think that there's no rule book, you know what I mean? I felt like I wanted to be thinner, I wanted to be 10 kgs lighter, and I did it. And I stick by it. I make better choices today, what I eat, how much I work out. And it's a choice that I made for my health, for my family, for all my issues that I had. And I think also don't get um, don't get fooled by the current trend. I think everything is a wave. You know, right now being curvy is a wave. Tomorrow being skinny will be a wave. Yeah. So don't ride with the wave. Do what is best for yourself and what makes you happy.
That's a great point of view. But what do you think is the most common misconception about a plus-size woman?
That they
And
don't
why do
like
you
to
think-
dress up.
That they don't?
They don't like to dress up.
don't have to
I don't know why. I get that so much. I think a lot of people tell me that, oh, you know, I'll just wear like they'll just wear a sack or like wear something loose or wear something that's, you know, that doesn't show off anything. So I think that's a big misconception. I have women all the time asking me to make things for them, bigger women especially, and I think curvy women love dressing up. They love dressing up maybe even more than skinny women. So I think that's a big misconception. It exists because we consider being curvy as being ugly, and there's no such thing. So, yeah.
Do you think curvy women should only wear outfits that suit their body type, or should they be free to experiment?
I think you can experiment, but like I said, it's all about comfort, right? Of course, it's about fashion, but I think comfort comes first. What you feel yourself in. I feel like women who dress up a certain way, you know, just to please society or please someone, they, you know, you see their confidence drop and you see that they don't walk the way they did. And some designer said, oh, you should wear this because it's the current trend or because you know, you're curvy, but you have the attitude, so you should wear it. And then you see their confidence drop, the way their walk changes, and they just don't feel themselves in it. You know, they sit differently, they walk differently. So I think you should wear what you feel you're best in. And experiment if you have to, but it all depends, like Nitya said, on the inner more than the outer. Yeah.
Kia, did you find in the US over the years and also today that color issues were different from gender issues in film where the black actors, it was okay for black actors to be a little darker, but black female actors had to be a little lighter skin?
I mean, I think things have changed a lot, and sometimes they haven't changed as much as I think they have. But if you look historically in films like Stormy Weather, which was a very famous black film, early black film from the 40s, or even The Cotton Club, which was the famous segregated jazz lounge in the 20s, all the women had to be light-skinned, and the men could be dark. It's interesting, actually, if you look at Stormy Weather and you see very dark men and all the women are light-skinned. You know, I kind of, and to be honest with this, of course, I'm sort of a bit outside of the issue because I am a light-skinned woman myself, so I'm outside of the issue to some degree of dark-skinned women. It's only come to my attention recently that some of those color issues still exist. So a friend of mine wrote a TV show, and it was it was a sitcom. There were 4 black women, and apparently the show would go on hiatus every 6 weeks, and 2 of these women, who are very successful, they're these TV stars, would go to some, you know, shot in LA, would go to some place in the desert and have their skin peeled. And apparently by the 3rd season, he said if you look closely, a couple of the women were lighter than they were in the early season. So, yeah, I suppose that still goes on.
You know, I'm told that we have to wind up quickly, so I'm just going to throw the floor open for a couple of questions. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
All right, so my question is dressing in Bollywood and how women are portrayed differently by their dressing and just the general portrayal of women in Bollywood, which influences the common ideals of beauty, whereby women tend to look at other women through the male gaze, which is done by the camera and by outfits. So I just would like to know your opinions on it.
Masaba, is there Is there an over-sexification of women in Bollywood? Does Bollywood hold an unnatural ideal to women in society today?
Yeah, they do. I think, see, the thing is, I mean, the fact of the matter is you can't look like a heroine from a Karan Johar movie. First of all, I'll freeze to death in a sari on top of a snow-clad mountain. But I just think that it's, it's, like I said, it's so deeply rooted in our culture, especially with Bollywood. I mean, forget about movies, you also have a lot of actors who don't step out without wearing full makeup on their face. So the lives that they're leading professionally and personally both tell you that you need to look a certain way to be able to be attractive or desirable. And like I said, it's not something that's going to change for years to come. It's been around for so many years now. It's going to be around for many years to come. But I think that's what Bollywood is, right? That you watch it for the beauty of it. You watch actresses for the way they look, for a certain idea.
One last quick question. Anyone? Sure. And then we wrap up.
You said it's deeply rooted in our culture, which I don't agree with. It's a very post-colonial way of looking. I mean, if you look at some of our older paintings, the women are curvy, the women are dark-skinned. But after the British invaded India and, British lived in India and colonized us, our idea of beauty has changed, which Bollywood unfortunately has taken, I mean, they've appropriated and they want their, it's a post-colonial hangover, thank you, which I think should be changed, and it's about time that people look into it.
I completely agree, but I think that you and me sitting over here can't change Bollywood, I wish we could.
The point is that there are many points of view on body issues and beauty, and some of them are personal, some are political.
No, but then you tell me why a dark-skinned actor today is considered an unconventional actor,
I feel like there was a Dirty Picture that did really well, and it had Vidya Balan, who was extremely curvy in the movie. I think that it's also what the audiences want to watch. And A Gangs of Wasipur doesn't do as well as a glossy, glamorous movie with, Deepika in it, who's, looking perfect as usual. But that's what, and I think it's what the audiences want, like people want to go watch.
Okay, so clearly there are many answers to this question.
It's a long discussion. I'll have it with you outside.
Masaba, Nitya,
Outside.
Milind, Kia, I want to thank you, and thank you all. Thank you.